My husband's side chick texted, "Poor girl, she has no idea." I replied from his phone, "Yeah, but she knows who just maxed out his credit card and froze his accounts." When he called me, screaming, I just said, "Try explaining that to her." It started with a text message. I was standing in my kitchen, putting away groceries, when my husband's phone buzzed on the counter. Normally, I wouldn't have paid much attention, except he had been acting weird for months. Always guarding his phone, stepping outside to take calls, coming home later than usual with excuses that didn't quite add up. So, when I saw the notification light up, I glanced at the screen. Poor girl, she has no idea. My stomach dropped. I didn't need to ask who she was talking about. I picked up his phone, my hands oddly steady, and opened the message. There was no saved contact name, just a random number. I scrolled up. The conversation was mostly one-sided, her sending messages, him responding occasionally, nothing outright incriminating. But I wasn't stupid. And then I saw it. "I had such a good time last night. Wish you could stay longer. I miss you already." Kiss mark. I could hear the shower running in the bathroom. He was home. Right there. The person I had built a life with, the man I had trusted, was in our house, rinsing off the evidence of whatever had happened the night before. I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the phone, the words blurring in front of me. Then, something in me snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't panic. Instead, I reached for my own phone and opened our banking app. I had suspected something was off for a while, so earlier that week, I had already started digging. His spending habits had changed. He was withdrawing cash more often, which was unusual for him. There were charges at high-end restaurants, hotel stays, a jewelry store. None of it for me. I had already called the bank earlier that day, before I even saw the message. I told them I had lost my card, and because it was a shared account, I had the authority to freeze it immediately. I also moved most of our savings into my personal account, one that only my name was on. Just in case. Now, holding his phone, I typed back a response. "Yeah, but she knows who just maxed out his credit card and froze his accounts." Then I set the phone back on the counter and waited. The shower turned off. A few minutes later, he walked into the kitchen, towel around his waist, rubbing his hair with another. He barely looked at me before reaching for his phone. The moment he unlocked it, I watched it happen. His whole body stiffened. His face drained of color. Then his phone started ringing. He glanced at me, eyes wide, then at the screen. He didn't answer it. Instead, he spun to face me. "What did you do?" I sipped my coffee, completely calm. "Try explaining that to her." He stared at me, his mouth slightly open like he couldn't quite process what was happening. Then the phone rang again. This time, he picked up. "What?" His voice was sharp, panicked. No, that's not possible. There must be a mistake." I could hear her on the other end, shrill, demanding. I had no idea what she was saying, but whatever it wasn't friendly. He turned away from me, lowering his voice, but I caught snippets. "I don't know. I'll fix it. Just give me a second." Then he hung up and turned back to me, face twisted in anger. "What the hell did you do?" I leaned back in my chair. "What do you think I did?" He took a step closer. "You went through my phone?" I shrugged. It was sitting right there. "That's an invasion of privacy." I actually laughed. "Oh, privacy is where you draw the line? That's rich." His hands curled into fists at his sides. Not because he was going to hit me, he'd never been physically violent, but because he knew. He knew he had no defense. "You had no right to touch my accounts," he hissed. I raised an eyebrow. "Our accounts." "And actually, I did. My name is on them." He opened his mouth, then shut it again. He was still holding the phone, gripping it so tightly his knuckles were white. Then, without another word, he stormed out of the kitchen. I heard drawers opening and slamming shut, the sound of him pulling clothes from the closet, stuffing them into a bag. He thought he could leave and fix this. Thought he could call the bank, call her, smooth things over. But he didn't know I had already called his job. Earlier that day, before freezing the accounts, I had also made another call. My husband worked for a company that took financial stability very seriously. I knew for a fact that employees weren't allowed to have accounts frozen due to suspicious activity. It was in his contract. I had informed HR that he may need some financial counseling. That there had been unusual spending. That, as his wife, I was concerned. I played the role of the worried spouse perfectly. And now, as I listened to him stomping around, throwing a tantrum, I just smiled. Because I wasn't done yet. The front door slammed. I sat at the kitchen table, listening to the sound of his car peeling out of the driveway. He was running straight to her, no doubt. Maybe to cry on her shoulder, maybe to spin some story about his crazy wife. I didn't care. I picked up my phone and started scrolling through my emails. A few days ago, I had done something else, something I hadn't planned on pulling the trigger on yet, but now it felt like perfect timing. I had reached out to a divorce lawyer. I wasn't stupid. The late nights, the sudden urge to work out, without actually losing a single pound, the extra care with his appearance, I had seen the warning signs. Maybe I didn't want to believe them at first, but deep down I knew. So, I had quietly prepared. I had spoken to an attorney and learned exactly what I needed to do. My name was on everything, our house, the accounts, even his car loan. The lawyer had told me to start documenting everything, and I had. The credit card statements, the sudden cash withdrawals, the text messages, every single breadcrumb leading straight to the mess he had made. Now, it was just a matter of watching him fall into the trap he had set for himself. The phone buzzed again. I expected it to be him. Maybe he had realized I had locked him out of our shared savings. Maybe he thought he could yell his way back in. But it wasn't him. It was her. I didn't even realize I had saved her number, but I must have done it out of instinct. You're a real piece of work. You think you won? I smirked. Then I typed back. I don't think. I know. Less than a minute later, my phone rang. I picked up, waiting for her to speak first. Listen, lady, she snapped. I don't know what your problem is, but you're acting psycho. He told me you were crazy, but I didn't think you'd actually go this far. I laughed, actually laughed into the phone. He told you I'm crazy? That's funny. Real funny. Because from where I'm sitting, the only crazy person here is the one who thought she could spend a married man's money and not get caught. Silence. Then, in a lower voice, like she was embarrassed, she said, he promised me we were going to be together. I leaned back in my chair. And now you're realizing what a liar he is, huh? More silence. Then, she muttered, he said you were divorcing anyway. That you guys were done. I shook my head. If we were done, why was I the one paying the bills? Why was I the one cooking dinner while he was out with you? Why was I the one he came home to every night? Another long pause. Then, something I didn't expect. She sighed. It wasn't angry, wasn't defensive. It sounded deflated. He told me you knew about us. I sat up straight. What? She hesitated, but then she just blurted it out. He said you knew. That you guys were just living together until the divorce paperwork went through. That it wasn't like a real marriage anymore. He said you were fine with it. I felt my heart pounding in my ears. I had expected cheating. I had expected lies. But I had not expected this. He had actually convinced her that I was okay with this, that I was just sitting at home, happy to let my husband run around with another woman while I folded his laundry. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to stay calm. Let me guess, I said slowly. He told you I was a cold wife. That I stopped loving him. That I don't pay attention to him. The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know. I bet he made you feel special, I continued. Like you were different. Like you were the one thing keeping him going. A sharp breath from her. Let me guess. He told you we don't sleep in the same bed anymore. That did it. She made a sound like a sob, but she swallowed it down fast. I'm sorry, she whispered. He made it sound so different. I wasn't going to feel bad for her. Not yet. Instead, I said, you're not the first, are you? Her breath hitched. That's when I knew. She hadn't been his first affair. She had believed she was, of course. Probably thought she was the one who finally made him realize he deserved better. The one who had saved him from his terrible, boring wife. But she had just been the next in a long line of women who had fallen for his sob story. She didn't answer me. But she didn't have to. Because I already knew. I sat there gripping my phone, my mind racing. He had done this before. That part didn't shock me as much as it should have. It made too much sense. The late nights, the sudden change in spending, the way he knew exactly how to lie to someone and make them believe they were special. But here was the part that made my stomach turn. If he had done this before, how many times had I missed it? I exhaled slowly. How long? She hesitated. 6 months. 6 months. I had spent the last 6 months making his lunches, washing his clothes, listening to him talk about his stressful job, all while he was sneaking around with her. I was so stupid. I forced my voice to stay steady. Where did you two meet? She sniffled. The gym. Of course. The gym he had suddenly needed to go to. The gym that, according to my credit card statements, had charged him double some months. Did he pay for your membership? I asked, already knowing the answer. She let out a shaky breath. Yeah. I laughed, humorless. I paid for your gym membership. She groaned. Oh my God. I could almost hear the realization crashing down on her. Did he tell you he loved you? Silence. Then, barely above a whisper, yes. I clenched my jaw. It was one thing to cheat. It was another to build a whole fantasy with someone else. I heard her take a deep breath, trying to compose herself. I should go. But I wasn't finished. You're not the only one, you know, I said. She froze. What? I tapped my fingers against the table, thinking, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about exposing everything. So I asked the one question I was afraid to hear the answer to. Have you ever been to our house? The silence stretched too long. I closed my eyes. You have. I didn't know, she stammered. He said it was his place. That you had already moved out. The room tilted. I imagined it. Her standing in my kitchen. Sitting on my couch. Lying in my bed. She kept talking, like she needed to justify it to herself. It was only a couple times. And I swear, I wouldn't have if I knew you were still living there. I was gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. And then, another thought hit me. Did my neighbor see you? She hesitated. I don't know. Oh, my God. Had I smiled at people in the grocery store who had seen my husband bringing another woman into our home? Had I walked my dog past people who knew and never said a word? My whole body burned with humiliation. I needed more. I needed to know just how deep this went. Do you know about anyone else? I asked, voice sharp. She hesitated. There was one girl, before me. I let out a slow breath. Who? I don't know her name, she said. But she was younger. Like, really young. A new kind of horror crawled up my spine. Define really young. She hesitated. Like, early 20s? I shut my eyes. He was almost 40. The pieces clicked. The sudden urge to buy new clothes. The extra hair gel. The way he had started playing music in the car that didn't sound like anything he actually liked. I had thought it was a midlife crisis. Turns out, it was just a pathetic attempt to impress women half his age. I took a deep breath. I need to find her. The woman on the phone exhaled shakily. I don't know her personally, but I've seen her before. She worked at that coffee shop near the gym. My heart pounded. I knew the one. I was already standing, grabbing my keys. Thanks, I said. She hesitated. Then, softer, I'm really sorry. I didn't answer. I just hung up and walked out the door. By the time I reached the coffee shop, my hands had stopped shaking. I stepped inside, scanning the faces behind the counter. There were 3 baristas working. 2 were older. One was young, maybe 22. She looked up and made eye contact with me. And froze. I saw it immediately. The flash of recognition. The panic. It was her. I walked straight to the counter, my heart hammering, and said, we need to talk. She looked at the older woman beside her, then back at me. I'm working. Then I'll wait. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. Then, with a shaky breath, she nodded. I stepped to the side, grabbed a seat near the window, and waited. This wasn't over. Not even close. I sat at the coffee shop, my hands resting on the table, my heart hammering as I waited. The young barista, her, kept glancing at me while she made drinks. She fumbled an order, spilling milk across the counter. She was nervous. Good. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cause a scene. I just wanted the truth, every last filthy detail. 15 minutes later, her shift ended. She took off her apron, grabbed her purse, and walked over. Can we talk outside? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, standing. Outside, the evening air was thick with humidity. She crossed her arms over her chest, shifting her weight from foot to foot. I didn't know he was married. I gave her a long look. Don't lie to me. She swallowed. He told me you guys were separated. I let out a sharp laugh. That's funny. You're the second woman who's told me that today. Her eyes widened. How long? I asked. She hesitated, then whispered, a year. I sucked in a breath. A year. You're serious? My voice cracked. She nodded, blinking rapidly. I broke it off months ago. He got weird. Possessive. Kept asking who I was seeing, what I was doing. He'd show up here, just watching me. My stomach twisted. That sounded exactly like him. She bit her lip. You know he bought me stuff, right? I stared at her. What stuff? Her voice was barely audible. A car. I had to grip the back of a chair to steady myself. A car. She nodded. I felt bad about it. I tried to give it back, but he said it was a gift. That I deserved it. I pressed a hand to my forehead. This man, this idiot, had bought a car for some 20-something barista while I was at home cutting coupons and trying to make sure our bills were paid on time. Did he ever tell you where the money came from? I asked, my voice eerily calm. She blinked. I just assumed. It was his. It was mine. Or at least, ours, before I had shut that down. I exhaled through my nose. What else? She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. I don't know if this matters, but I kept some messages. I thought about going to the police because he wouldn't leave me alone, but I figured if I ignored him, he'd move on. She handed me the phone. And there it was. Months of desperate, pathetic texts. You know you're the only one I really care about. I'll fix everything, just give me time. She doesn't love me. Not the way you do. Don't throw this away. We have something special. If you don't talk to me, I don't know what I'll do. And the one that made my blood run cold, you're making a mistake. You don't just get to leave me. I won't let you. I handed the phone back, my head spinning. He's dangerous, I murmured. She swallowed hard. I know. I had been thinking of this as some game, as a fight I could win with strategy and careful planning. But it wasn't just a betrayal. It wasn't just infidelity. It was control. And he had been losing it, piece by piece. I needed to end this. For good. That night, I called him. He picked up immediately, his voice sharp. Where the hell is my money? I smiled. Oh, you mean my money? A pause. Don't play games with me. I ignored that. Meet me at home. Now. He hesitated, then muttered, fine. I was already there, sitting in the living room when he walked in. His face was tense, his eyes darting around like he was expecting an ambush. Where is it? He snapped. I took my time. Sit down. He crossed his arms. I'm not sitting. I tilted my head. Suit yourself. Then I reached into my bag and tossed his phone onto the coffee table. Go ahead. Check your messages. He frowned, picked it up, unlocked it, and froze. His face drained of color. I waited, watching the muscles in his jaw tighten. You talked to her, he finally said. Both of them, I corrected. He let out a slow breath. You had no right, I barked out a laugh. I had no right? I had no right? He had the audacity to look annoyed. Like I was the problem here. You made this a lot worse than it needed to be, he said, shaking his head. My eyes flashed. Oh, you think I made it worse? How about buying a car for some 20-year-old with our money? How about bringing another woman into our house? How about lying to all of them? How about stalking one of them when she tried to leave? His face darkened. Watch your mouth. A thick silence filled the room. I took a deep breath. This is what's going to happen. His nostrils flared. You don't get to tell me. You're going to leave, I interrupted. Right now. You're going to take your bags, walk out that door, and never come back. He scoffed. Yeah? And if I don't? I picked up my phone, unlocked it, and held up the screen. His messages. His threats. His manipulation. I had every single one, and I had already emailed them to my lawyer. His face twitched. I could see the moment he realized he had lost. He ran a hand down his face, exhaling sharply. You're serious? As a heart attack. Another long pause. Then, finally, he stepped back. His lips curled into a bitter smirk. You think you're so smart. I held his gaze. Smarter than you. He grabbed his bag, yanked open the door, and stepped outside. Then he turned back. You'll regret this. I smiled. I already regret ever loving you. And with that, I shut the door in his face. It took months to untangle the mess he left behind. The divorce was ugly, drawn out, exhausting. He tried to manipulate me, tried to paint himself as the victim. But I had proof. I won. And the best part? He lost everything. I heard through the grapevine that he tried to crawl back to the other women, but none of them wanted him anymore. His job found out about his financial issues, and he was quietly let go. His reputation? Ruined. As for me, I rebuilt. It wasn't easy. There were nights I still felt the sting of betrayal, the dull ache of wasted years. But one day, I realized something. I felt lighter. I had been carrying him for so long, and now that weight was finally gone. And for the first time in a long time, I could finally breathe.